This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon, Peg.
Good afternoon, and welcome back to Pete.
Here we go.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Yes, we will. And Pete and I are executive and business coaches.
Right.
Helping your teams and your companies grow.
And you.
And you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
here's our promise. As you're listening to this radio show, you will walk away with ideas that you can apply to your business.
Immediately.
Right.
Simple things. We try to keep it as simple as possible, right?
Right. And you know what was interesting, Pete? The other day, Michelle and I were going up to Michigan for one of our clients. We have clients all over the U.S., not just in Columbus. And
Or Michigan, as Mark calls it.
Yes, Michigan. And so we were going up to Michigan, and I was listening to it, and I didn't know that there was a business talk on it. Different, in a different area.
No way.
Yeah. It wasn't business talk. It was like they talked about business.
Yeah, but it's not as good, right?
It wasn't as good.
Okay.
And the reason is to your point, you just said we keep it simple and you can apply it right now. It was a little not simple.
Oh, really? Yeah.
We keep it applicable.
This stuff is not complicated.
No.
It really isn't.
It just listen
you
to
learned it in kindergarten. You just didn't know how to apply it.
Exactly.
And we're going to explain it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's good. And I was in Thailand for a week.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you,
right.
Ben. My oldest son, Ben, wanted to go to Thailand because he'd seen it on Anthony Bourdain, and they eat all cool food and stuff. And he was going over there, and he said, well, why don't you go with me? And I think that was one of my lessons from 2017 and Peg, you helped me, and Guillermo and Heidi, my neighbors at the lake, helped me. They said, well, of course you're going to go. Why wouldn't you go?
Why
Of course
hesitate?
you don't think about it.
Yes.
Just go.
So you just gave our listeners a little hint. So each
show.
Each show has a theme, and the show this one is Pete.
This is the end of the year, guys. It's the end of 2017, and we're very thankful for everything that's happened. And we learned a few things for ourselves, our business, and from our clients.
Absolutely.
And we're thankful for all of it. And we have some great lessons from 2017.
Absolutely.
Things that really, rocked us a little bit. And sometimes we relearn things that we already knew.
Well, and we're not just saying lessons that we learned, but lessons that our clients learned. And
Correct.
what not pummeled them, I would guess ignite them.
Or plummeted them.
Thank you,
to,
plummeted.
to greater
Thank you.
heights.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, Pete, that was the one. I'm like,
Sometimes we pummel them, but usually not. We try not to do that.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, but I know you combined them.
I combined
You do
them.
that sometimes.
I appreciate it.
You can make up your own words. That's fine.
So we're going to dive into that. But first, as our research director, Pete is our research director for the show,
Right.
so he puts our shows together, and,
Right.
and you do such a great job that you get to do it every time. So with that said,
it's simple.
Pete, we're going to start with some good news. What is
Good
the
news. There's a lot of good news. Now, of course, the stock market, holy cow, it's done a lot over the last year, the last 8 months. Really, what's going on with this tax plan now? Maybe it has passed in the last few days, but we're talking about what could happen if we get to 4% growth. We've been at 1.5% to 2% for several years.
Right.
If we add 1% of growth, you're going to see dramatic improvement in the business outlook. Optimism among business owners, consumer sentiment are at record levels. And we're seeing in the hiring side that it is difficult, and it's always been somewhat difficult, challenging, right, to find people. It's becoming even more challenging. But when you this is an article from Maria Bartiromo, who's on the Fox Business Network. She had an editorial here in the Wall Street Journal talking about companies bringing cash back to the U.S. and jobs back to the U.S.
Yes.
And they're talking about long-term growth. And really, that's what we're hoping for, is that we can get the economy here up to 4%. And the global economy is approaching 4%. Now, China's slowed down a little bit, but the rest of the world, Europe in particular, has sped up. So it's looking good. The other thing that's happened is that the federal government has started to reduce regulations. And I'll tell you, during President Obama's final year in office, the Federal Register, which contains new and proposed rules and regulations, was at 95,894 pages, the highest level in history, and 19% higher than the previous year's 80,000 pages. In other words, that's what we all have to comply with.
A lot of compliance.
Oh, my goodness. The American Action Forum estimates the last administration burdened the economy with 549 million hours of compliance, averaging nearly 5 hours of paperwork for every full-time employee. So in other words, we're starting to reverse that, and people are starting to see it, and it's helping everybody.
Oh, that's good. That's good news, Pete, in our good
news
segment.
man. And then holiday spending tops forecast. So people are spending more than expected this holiday season, fueled by income gains, confidence in the economic outlook, and their buoyant financial markets and modest inflation. Walmart, Nordstrom, and several others are reporting their best year-over-year November sales increase in 7 years. Home furnishings, electronics, appliance stores, even though people are shopping more online, the brick-and-mortar stores are showing increases as well.
Well, that's good because, this brick-and-mortar, I want them still.
Yeah, you still want to walk into a store and look at something or
try
touch
on
something, right?
And get it right there and experience it. So that's good. I'm glad that they're doing better.
Altogether, sales at online retailers, brick-and-mortar stores and restaurants rose 0.8% in November from the prior month, well above the 0.3% increase that was expected. And that was up 5.8% from last year, that's a lot. A lot.
Well, excellent. Excellent. Oh, my.
And the last thing here, hiring growth powers the economy. So, and again, this is just they're talking about the seasonally adjusted Labor Department data showing 228,000 jobs created in November, which was excellent. It's the 86th month of expansion.
Wow.
So and if we get the tax plan going, it's going to continue for a while.
Well, what's interesting? I need to share with the listeners and you. Now, this was going to tell you a little bit about my age. And I was
41.
Yes, I was watching The Love Boat.
The
Love Boat. It's on MeTV, that MeTV channel, and I was watching it because I just think it's like one of those silly ones that you just enjoy.
Yeah. It's silly.
It's not with conflict,
but it's funny. Yeah,
but it's funny.
It's funny stuff.
And it was interesting.
Harmless, right?
Harmless, just something you can have in the background, or kind of fun. And so I was listening to it, and one of the things that they were saying is it was about this woman who owned a company, and she was on the and she had her secretary with her, and they called
on the Love Boat.
On the Love Boat, and the secretary was her daughter.
Okay.
And she was complaining to the captain, well, you know how hard it is to find good help. And I was like, that was
this is in 1978 or something.
Or it was like in 84. I don't know when, 84, let's say. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? We still, and that's one of our lessons that we're going to get into. Right. So our topic for today is the lessons of 2017.
Right.
What we saw business owners go through, what we learned ourselves, and one of the lessons is in hiring, which we're going to review today.
Right.
So,
and let's start with our first topic on the lessons.
The lessons.
Number one on this list here is beliefs. Your beliefs.
Yes.
So let's talk about beliefs related to hiring.
Okay, so
because we hear them.
Yes.
We hear these things.
And one of the things that it's important for you to know is Pete and I are coaches, executive and business coaches. We've been doing this for 12 years. So you can imagine that we have worked with a lot of companies and a lot of individuals. So although we're talking about 2017, I think this can be speaking for all of the years as well. It is a belief system is something you hold to be true, right, Pete?
Right.
It's not necessarily true.
Yep.
So have you ever heard the adage of whatever you think is right. Or better, what's that one that we always talk about, self-fulfilling prophecy? Because wherever you believe you are, as you're driving, because most of you are driving right now as you're listening, wherever you believe you are is where you are. So look at where you are, and that's your belief.
Yeah, it's hard to find good people. There's a belief.
There's a belief. And, it was funny because I heard her say that on the Love Boat. And I was like, oh, golly, I could take
in
that
1984.
Yes, I could take that sentence and have a field day. So beliefs, a lot of times, is I want you to look at all of the beliefs and write them down. Your beliefs about your business, your beliefs about your employees, the beliefs about finding good people.
The beliefs about your own capabilities, the beliefs about your time.
And write them down.
Yeah.
And find the ones that aren't serving you. Because there was one belief of a company, and we're going to go back to that, not being able to find people, that I believe that having a lot of employees makes the business harder.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That's where I was coming from.
That's a little different twist on hard to find good employees. It's, I've got a certain number of employees now. If I double it, I'm going to have to work harder.
Yes, that is a belief. And when we challenged this business owner and this manager and said, what if your belief is wrong? What if it's easy to find good people? What if we created a system in order to do that? What if we had people starting to call you? What if you got to pick the best of the best? And what if it made it easier for you to have more people?
Well, that is really interesting. And we're about a minute from a break here, but I've got an example from a client of ours that has a second office in a remote city away from Columbus. And they doubled the size of their office this year.
Yes.
And this gentleman that I've been working with for about a year said just this past week that it's easier, he's more comfortable and more calm in his job now than he was a year ago, even though he's doubled the size of his staff.
Isn't that
he's
interesting?
More in control and more confident about how things are going, and he's got better control of what's going on, even though he's got twice as many people.
And I think when we return after this break, I really want to talk a little bit about how that happens. What happens when you grow your team in that belief and figuring that all out when we return? Because that happens a lot with our companies and our people that we coach.
Great.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more Business Talk.
We're talking today about our beliefs, things that we learned during 2017. And the first one on here was beliefs, some beliefs that we had that we found were limiting either our company or our clients' companies.
Right. And it's lessons learned. And what we were talking about is finding good people, right? And a lot of times you think that your beliefs could be that our employees are a pain in the neck, that it creates a lot of issues, that when I have a lot of team members, that it's going to make my life more difficult. So what we want to tell you as coaches is that when we walk into companies, first of all, we do have a hiring system that we teach on how to hire the right. So number one, we do, like, if you need a hiring system.
That's an important
In
part.
fact, we have one company that's starting fresh, and they need to just hire a few people, and they're bringing us in just to do that, just to teach them
we do that
this
sometimes.
hiring system.
Yeah, occasionally.
Absolutely. If you're interested, you can do two things. Either call Pete and myself,
614-306-7922.
Or you can go to our website. And on our website, it's contact us, and it's takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
That's it.
Take Action Business Coaching. That's
you
the name
can
of our
also
firm.
listen to past shows.
Yes. Click on Business Talk and you'll hear past shows in there by category. So one of the things about the hiring and the belief system was what happened is, and to your point with this gentleman who had doubled his staff, and same with some of our other companies, they found it was easier.
Well, one of the key things that happened with him in particular is there are two people that they hired. Now, they've hired several people, but two of them were very experienced people who worked out at least as well or better than they actually thought. And they've taken a huge load off of him. He's able to hand fairly complicated projects and duties to them and just check back and make sure they get what they need, and they take care of it. And they do a great job. So if you hire well, you can actually go home a little earlier.
Well, and here's the thing about another belief. So we had another company, Pete, so I want you all to listen up. Turn this up right now. Stop talking.
Turn your volume up.
Pull
over to the side of the road.
Pull over to the side of the road,
driving.
because what I'm about to say happens to everybody listening who has been a manager. You have a person on your staff, or have had, and they're crabby. They create issues. They are difficult. They take a lot of your time. They may be gossips. They may create drama. Well, I'm telling you.
A lot of you have a picture of someone in your head.
Yes.
Right.
And then at the same time, you're saying, Peg and Pete, I cannot fire that person because they're so good at what they do.
They're good at this or that.
They're so good. Yeah. And guess what? You know what? It's going to be so hard to replace them. So we had a lesson. I was working with this company, Pete and I are, and one of the managers, it was a manager, and she was like, oh, this person doesn't get along with people. Everybody's getting really crabby, but she's really good at what she does. And she kept putting up with it. And we kept challenging this belief. This was 2017. Okay. Have you ever thought that maybe you could get somebody that does the work she does and they come with a positive attitude, a can-do, hard worker?
Yeah.
And she actually, her belief was that it would be difficult to replace her.
Okay.
So fast forward. Okay. So she ended up leaving. The lady ended up leaving.
Okay.
And fast forward to last week, I met with the person and they hired somebody.
The new person?
Yeah.
Oh, that same person.
That same person.
Same manager.
Same manager. And she said, this new person is better.
That's awesome.
It's not only technically better and has a great attitude,
can get along with
can too. Yeah. There's no conflict. There's no drama. Yeah. And so talking about that is, what is your belief around your employees? Are you putting up with
Right.
things because you're afraid they're going to quit?
Well, you get what you tolerate. We talk about simplicity. Well, that's simplicity. You get what you tolerate. If you are tolerating some bad behavior and you think it's too difficult to change, well, that's a belief that you could write down and say in January of 2018, I'm going to challenge that belief. I'm going to test the waters on this.
I like that.
We're either going to change it or we're going to change the person.
And say Peg and Pete say, I mean, really, guys, we do this. It works. Trust us as business coaches and executive coaches. And you can have us come in and help you too. This is what we do. Looking at the organization,
Right.
where are the holes. Let's evaluate the team. When was the last time you did an evaluation of your team? That would be good too.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
so Pete, that was one. So lessons of 2017 beliefs on
One
all
of them was
different
beliefs.
levels.
And Peg gave you guys a little homework. Would you reiterate the
Yeah,
homework
so
here?
whenever you're looking at your belief system, what we want you to do is to think about what is stopping you? Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So write your beliefs about your team. Write your beliefs about your company.
And write all of them down.
Good and bad.
And you could, after you do the whole list, and a brain dump is where you're not thinking too much, you're just writing. And then, once you get them all written down, put a plus or a minus next to each one. So you can determine whether or not it's a positive belief or a negative belief. And then take a look at, do you have an overwhelming number of negative beliefs or an overwhelming number of positive beliefs? It'll tell you a little bit about something about your how you're looking at things, too.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so good.
Okay,
That's
good.
your homework.
All
So
right.
we're moving on to beliefs now. So what's another lesson of 2017?
Another one, and this hit me a couple times during the year, and there's probably more, but there's two companies that we work with that hit me pretty good on this, and it's about analyzing. If you've got an organization that's involved in either billable hours, where it's engineering, or a company where your professionals
Like
are
accounting.
charging out by the hour,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Architect.
Yeah, architect, engineering, all kinds of things like that. Law firms, or if you have a sales organization with multiple individuals, and sometimes multiple individuals plus multiple products or services that they're selling.
Right.
You need to dig into those numbers a bit, because and again, this is not something that we just learned this year, but it reminded me the value of that. We've got one company that is not in Columbus, that's outside of it, but they're doing very well, and they're changing their compensation plans, and they're being rolled out right now, is because for years they've had the sales organization, and then it's grown. They've got 8 or 9 people in this organization. They're switching it all over to more sales goal-focused compensation as opposed to salary-based.
Right.
Changing
right.
the whole thing. Because the motivation to hit large goals has not been there, and it's really energized the organization. And they're doing well already, and they're going to have a great 2018.
So what I'm hearing you say is a couple things, because this is a really good, let's take a couple more minutes to talk about this. It's looking at your business, and are you really breaking out different parts to see what's going on, is what I'm hearing you say.
Right.
So we are
right.
making decisions fact-based versus emotional-based.
Dig in enough so that you can separate different product lines or service lines in terms of profitability and growth, and then also different individuals.
And when you find, okay, so some of the findings I'm thinking of in the past years when we've done that, we had one company that actually, and even you were saying product lines, but even if you add on a different product line that becomes a different company, are you separating it out enough to understand the true profitability of that?
Yes, that's really important.
We had that with a fairly large company who was absorbing in a different office. So they had a different office
this
in a
one
different
a few years
area.
ago? I know who you're talking
And
about. It was a lot of money.
They were absorbing it until we actually said, we're going to break this apart. We didn't realize the implications of the decisions being made for that area because it was being absorbed by the more profitable company. Mm-hmm. So we want you to separate that, number one. And then I'm hearing you say, if you have salespeople, let's see what their break even is.
Yeah, and it's not to be punitive. It's to help them understand exactly what they're doing themselves. And so that you can look at them and say, okay, who needs some help? Who needs me to spend a little more time with them?
Right.
Or maybe they're spending their time on low margin things or things that aren't profitable. Or they may be driving too many hours and that kind of thing, not being efficient in how they're working. There's all kinds of opportunities for improvement. But if you don't have the numbers, it's really hard to determine where to spend your time and effort.
That's a good lesson. Good lesson. And this was, and these companies have been around a while.
That's something that, again, homework-wise, you can take a look at it and say, okay, in the next, let's say from now till April 1st, take a look at your company and figure out if I have multiple people in sales organization, or a lot of times you have a person in sales, but you as the owner, you're still doing some of it yourself. Do I split out the numbers enough so that we know the effects of both of us that are out there working? Or if I have multiple lines of product, either product or service, do I know the profitability for those different things and the growth rates of those different things? And do I know which ones I want to grow? That's the other thing we've helped people with this year, is focusing on the things that they really enjoy and are profitable and they see a market expansion in. Let's focus on the ones that we really want to
I like that.
Proceed with.
And what? Tell me a little bit about communicating, though, Pete. So we when we do this, how do we communicate it with the people in the company once we know it?
Well, the best thing with that is if you've got individual salespeople, to sit down with them and say, okay, these are your numbers. This is your actual results, and here's the margin that was earned. Here's the sales dollars. Here it was from the previous year. And let's figure out how are the opportunities for this coming year. And in the territory that you're covering, the group of people that you're covering, what can I do as the business owner? Maybe there's a select few of those that when you meet with that person next, I should come with you and be along for the ride. Well,
the goal of communicating this is to empower. We want you to empower through
Right.
You know what? We want to be really open. Mm-hmm. We want to be very transparent. And a lot of companies. So one of the things Pete and I get to do as business coaches, and this is Business Talk, and we talk about employees, and our topic today is Lessons Learned of 2017. What we want to do is find out what the team is thinking. So we will do a survey of some kind. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions is transparency, because people feel that if you're not transparent, that there's something secret. And if there's something secret, it's going to be bad, and then I'm going to make up stories.
Right.
So this transparency of communicating the numbers, the measurement, the goals is only going to empower you and create a better bond so that we understand where we're coming from.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's a
so
great
keep things
lesson.
visible.
Lesson learned.
And the other one related to this analysis, if it's a company, we mentioned engineering firms and law firms and things like that, billable hours, is that I sat through meetings. We have a company we've been working with. We sat through meetings, Peg and I did, with people that are billable that had not gotten feedback on a monthly basis, and now they are, but they hadn't been getting feedback on how many hours they've actually billed. Sometimes things get written off and they don't know about it.
Right.
So they know now, feedback-wise, how did I do this month and what was I supposed to do? And it was interesting because a couple of these meetings that people weren't quite at their goal, we were able to find someone who had more work than they could handle really quickly just because they said, hey, I'm short a few hours. Can you help me? And of course. And it's communication of what's needed within the company. Sometimes you assume that everybody knows where the resources are and who needs help. And until you have these numbers quickly getting back to people, the feedback, you don't close the loop.
Well, and even looking at your average dollar sale, like billable hours because if you do an estimate and you have to have a project done within a certain time and this is your budget, it's also understanding your budget and that feedback loop of what are you billing per hour within this budget against your estimate. And sometimes that's not shared. And sharing that, this was your goal, and understanding that, and that's accountability, and it should be exciting because then we know how to celebrate and to congratulate each other.
Well, it helps us to get better too. If we know what worked and what didn't work, then we can continue to improve all the time.
And that's what we're all about.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more Business Talk.
So we're talking today about some of the things we learned from our clients and from other means during 2017. And there are a lot of interesting things. And sometimes we relearn things. We know this, but we kind of let it slide and business bumps along. And then all of a sudden we get hit in the nose with it and go, wow, I relearned this. So here's one, and this is an easy one, but it's just the value of marketing, and that even though you provide an excellent service or excellent product, if you're not actively working to get qualified leads into your business, you will not grow as fast.
That is exactly it. Right. Exactly it. Well, And it is amazing that in marketing, so this segment is lessons learned in marketing, I suppose, correct?
Yeah.
And so
the start of it is, yeah.
There's so many within this, Pete. I mean, like, one thing is there's a few mistakes that people make in marketing. One is that you start a strategy, a marketing strategy, and you don't do it long enough or with enough volume.
There you go. That's a good one.
To make it work.
Yeah. Sometimes you start a something to reinvigorate a product line or get the word out, and it works for a few months, and then you go, oh, well, that's good, and then you stop.
Oh, well, that's the second one.
Oh,
so then the second one is, so the first one is you start a strategy and you don't do it long enough to make it work. So you stop. So let's say you buy radio commercials on 98.9 The Answer, and you buy...
Just picking something at random,
week,
huh?
You do 1 week, and then you come back and say, I didn't get anything. Well, did we really run it long enough?
Right.
Did we do enough volume to allow us success? And then the second one is what you just said, is then the second mistake is you're doing a marketing strategy, and you quit doing it. And it worked.
Oh, right. It works, and you stop.
Yes, it
works. Because you get bored with it, right? Or you get disinterested in it.
Well, and a lot of times what we see with companies is, okay, I need to make, and I'm going to use salespeople, I need to make 1,000 phone calls to get an appointment or to get a client. But I don't want to do the 1,000. I've got the math. See, marketing is math. And it's interesting when we talk to companies. I said, if I told you how to get a client and it was proven, why wouldn't you get as many as you can? And so we sit down and we write down how are all the ways we get clients. Well, then let's turn up the volume on all of that.
Right. Just do more of it.
Right.
And you get more clients, right?
Right. And they just don't do it. Even though it works, they don't do it. So marketing has been a lot of lessons there of not doing enough. And what is your plan? Do you have a marketing plan?
Right. Yeah, and for example, one of our clients is a manufacturing company that makes very high quality equipment, has a big base of business. However, over the last few years, they have taken orders over the phone, over the internet. They get emails and, hey, I need a quote on this equipment, and they'll respond to those, and that's how the business goes. And it's dependent on, it's a passive process.
On call-ins.
Where they're not out working on the business, and they have distributors across the U.S., and we are now just starting to evaluate all the distributors. We've got all the information on how they performed this year. So one of the first things we're doing in the first quarter is to evaluate each distributor. And some of them are not going to be distributors anymore. We're just going to take it over within the company and manage those territories internally. Just because we're not getting any positive marketing done within those areas.
Well, I liked what you just said, is what are you, okay, so as you're listening to this show, and this is Peg and Pete. We're with Business Talk. We're talking about how do you improve your business, your leadership ability.
Yeah, and things we learned from this past year.
Things we learned from 2017 is our show title. And what have you tolerated?
Right. And, the thing is with being passive is that's fine as long as the economy is steadily growing. You'll probably survive. But if things are good, and why wouldn't you want to double that? Why don't you want to do better?
And sometimes, and I want to tell you what I hear from business owners of why we don't want to double sometimes. It's the beliefs.
About I might have to work twice as hard.
I might have to work harder. Or I hear this a lot, and I want you guys to stop it if you're one of the people saying this. Well, I don't want to hire all these people because if we have an economy that goes south again, I don't want to
fire them off.
Yes, then we have to lay them off, and I don't want to do that. Stop that. Stop that talk right now. That's self-sabotage. You're not allowed to have that. Let's go ahead and build a business model that allows you to make money now, and you will continue to grow. You will continue to diversify to protect yourself. Right. That kind of talk. And we're going to do it through creating a proactive marketing plan that works because we measure it.
Right.
That's what I want to hear you all say. So you can say that right now.
Yeah, and this company, because we started to put some attention toward marketing, is they really took a hard look at their website and looked at some other companies' websites and decided to do and they've really got it all redone. But it looks wonderful now. But it's simple stuff. It's just new pictures of new things that they've done over the last 2 or 3 years versus 15 years ago. They've updated everything, and they're ready. They're ready to roll.
And sometimes you don't look at your website. And it was funny because Pete and I were talking about our website last week, and we're like, you know what, and one of the things you can do is you can join us on Facebook. Take Action Business Coaching is on Facebook. We also are on LinkedIn. where we post articles. We constantly are posting different pictures of our clients, of us working together. We always are lessons learned. So you're welcome to join us as friends on both of those social media outlets. And we were realizing we're not putting our fresh pictures on our website because we don't go to our website. So we don't see it.
Right.
And so I bet you're the same as you're listening. Like, how often are you going to it? Because that is the window. Either people are going to find you there.
And you don't have to do it all the time, but you need to do it once a year at least to take a look at it and then look at your competitors and see, are you keeping up? And we don't want to keep up. We want to be ahead.
Right, so. Exactly. So is that the lessons learned in marketing, Pete?
I think that's
Was
good.
that it?
Yeah,
2017
yeah.
Lessons learned in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the next lesson that you have?
Next one, a big one, is meetings. And this is a huge topic for most of you out there, unless you're a single person in your business.
All right. So when you say lesson learned from meetings, there's multiple ways we can dive into that.
Oh, yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, one of them is what I call the rhythm of your meetings. Which meetings, for what purpose, and how often are you having those? And who's in them?
So what I'm hearing is in 2018, because obviously that most people are going to be off next week. So we're talking about a fresh start. What would you suggest they do for meetings for this?
Well, and I'm thinking about one of your clients, Peg, that I went to see once. You were busy, and I went down to see them and talk to their general manager, and he did an excellent job. And he wanted some feedback on what meetings he was holding and for what purpose. And what they did is consciously looked at, well, what meetings do we really need, and who needs to be in those meetings? And he had a whole series of, and I'm starting from the top, is he and the business owner have their own private meetings, just the two of them to talk. And they actually do that. I think they walk most of the time.
Yes, walking meetings.
That's one where it's just the two of them. They can talk at a high level. Sometimes they talk tactical stuff, but a lot of times it's longer-term strategic things. And then meetings where it's sales, meetings where it's production, operations type things, a monthly financial meeting, and also a quarterly financial meeting. So different meetings for different purposes, and how often are we going to do it? And then a once-a-day huddle, we call it a huddle, and you could even be standing up in somebody's office for 15 minutes just to get a state of the state. Are we applying the resources that we have to the things that we have problems with or opportunities to work on today in the right way? And once everybody knows that they're all deployed well, we're done.
You know, one thing you said, and so as you're listening to this is a good action step, because, you know, we're coaches. So we teach a principle, or we teach a topic. We want you to take a lesson learned, and then the application is how that applies to you. So you have to take action.
And then
on
the
this.
next time we see you, we're going to talk about how did the application go? How did it work? You tested something. What happened?
And make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah.
Make adjustments accordingly, obviously. So one of the things is that I'm hearing you say is it would be good for you to take an inventory of all the meetings that you're having.
Yes, this is a great time of year to do that.
Okay.
And, you know, we do some executive coaching with larger companies, and this is a disease that some of the bigger companies have that is really hard to reverse, is too many people in too many meetings.
So take your department, write down all your team members, including you, what meetings they're in, what was the purpose, what I'm hearing you say, and how long. And here's one thing you can do is look at the length, and maybe instead of it being an hour, make it 50 minutes. And here's one thing, when we went into this executive team and what we saw is, you know, because we were coaching them. So let's say our coaching session was from 3 to 4. So we're in there coaching them. Then they had a 4. And I said, you know, you're running me right up against another one.
Right.
So either you're going to be late for that one or cut me short. Why don't we cut me from 3 to 3:55 and make the other one start at 4:05? Why does it have to be on the hour?
Yeah. And does it have to be an hour?
Does it have
Could
to
it be done in 30 minutes?
Or
Could it
40?
be done in 20 minutes? And the other thing that, and we mentioned this in a previous segment, is the gentleman that feels better now with twice as many employees. One of the things that happened is he's got some capable employees that in the past he would have had to attend a meeting with a junior person in order to make sure that decisions were made properly and the right thing was said to the client and those kind of things. He doesn't have to be in all these meetings because he's got somebody he can delegate to and not double cover things.
Right. And that's
in some of our
thing,
bigger companies, we have a manager, we have the manager's boss, and they feel that they have to both be in a lot of these meetings, and they really don't.
That's not very leveraged of your time. So as a lesson learned, I guess we can wrap this up with a lesson learned in meetings. Take inventory of your meeting, Do you need to be there? How long does it need to be? And does it even need to exist?
Yeah, so make a conscious decision for the coming year what meetings we're going to have and how often and who's going to be in them.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
All right, so we're talking about things that we learned in 2017.
As we're heading into 2018, and one thing we want you to do is go to our website, takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, and we have our clients do this as homework. And listen to some of our shows. They're listed by category. And this will be too. So if you just joined us and you want to hear the rest of the show, it will be on our website that you can listen to it on your time. And apply this. You know, Action Coach is, we are action oriented. So learn it, apply it, right. Do it, and follow through.
Yeah, it's action coaching, right? Not,
right.
I'm going to think about it for a long, long time coaching.
Yes, I'm going to think about it.
Do something with it.
Or I'm going to make a decision and then go back on it coaching. No, okay. no. So we have a lesson learned, and the next topic, Pete, is communication, right?
Communication. Okay, good.
So there's lesson learned. Okay, so there's multiple lessons. Number one is, when was the last time you have surveyed your team as far as a culture report? And how often do you do that?
When was the last time you went out to lunch or sat down with one of your employees? Somebody that you've walked by and said, hi, good morning to 50 times in the last 50 days, but you've never spent more than 5 minutes with them.
Well, so one of the things, Pete, and we do as a firm, and there's Michelle and Don, who are other coaches as well. They're just not on the show with us today. When we walk into a company, one thing we do is we do what's called a 360. So we do interviews. We do interviews of different team members, whether they're direct reports of this individual or they're their bosses or they're laterally on the same thing, is we get feedback. So to your point, like, we just did this for a company where we got feedback for the partners, and it was really interesting. 4 out of the 6 partners' feedback was, I want to see them more.
Great.
I'd like to talk to them more.
Great.
I want more of their time. And so the communication, as great as you think it is, you can do better, and put that down.
And one of the executive coaching clients that I have, and it's in a service company, I've had him, and you can do this if you're at home and you're not driving, is you draw a circle and make a pie on the circle. And if you're a leader, how much time is management time and how much is operating time? So operating time would be actually doing the product or service or fixing a problem related directly to how you're taking care of your customer. The management time would be when you're teaching someone something, or you're reinforcing something with an employee, or you're spending time with one of your leaders to teach them how you do things, or solving a complex customer issue, or maybe even going out and getting new business. But how much are you leading versus how much are you doing actual operating work? And I'm thinking about this company you're talking about.
Right.
I'm sure that there are times when they've got their head in front of their computer and they're working billable stuff.
Right. When
what they might be better served doing is to shut the computer off and go and talk to one of their other employees and teach them something, because most of these folks have been working there for 20 to 25 years. They have a ton of experience.
And one thing, we labeled it Coffee with the Prez. Like, there was a president who needed more time. And what we did, and we've done this with multiple companies, is the president will have a 3 or 4 slot where they're having coffee with them for 45 minutes, and 3 or 4 people will show up, and they just talk, not about business, just talk. And it was a way, so let's say you have 50, 60 employees. It's a communication forum for them to get to know each other.
Right.
Not only with the president, but the people in the room. And it's an informal way, and it's worked really well with companies. And so that's been one lesson learned, is how much time are you spending with your people?
Well, and I think belief-wise, we mentioned this in previous segment about having limiting beliefs, is that we have a company that's relatively new with us, and it's a manufacturing company. They've got several hundred employees, so up to 300 people. And the feedback, they have some issues they're working on, opportunities for improvement. But one of them, a positive thing, is that the president has a perception that he is an open communicator, and he does come out and talk to people. Even though they've got 300 employees, he's visible and he's approachable, and people do talk to him.
Right.
He makes himself available and goes out and seeks people out and talks to them.
And here's the thing, when you do that, so again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk. We're talking about lessons learned in 2017 as executive coaches. What are our lessons dealing with all of our clients? And I liked what you just said is, we're talking about communicating with your people, connecting with your people. I mean, I've even asked some managers or presidents to go ahead and create a spreadsheet to make sure it's being done. Because what happens is we might be communicating with the same people over and over again. So we don't get out of our comfort zone to talk to people that might not be connected to us. So here is an example. Pete and I were just talking about this right before we started our show. People play favorites. They do. And you're not allowed as a leader. I'm just going to say that you can't do that as a leader. So why are you doing it?
So simple thing, and I had some of our executive coaching clients do this, and it's real simple. Just a sticky note, or maybe a lot of us have notebooks that we carry around. In the back of your notebook, you put down the names of your direct reports, and let's just say there's 10 of them, and keep it on your desk. And at the end of the week, give yourself a check mark if you spent a few minutes talking to this person not on a specific tactical issue, but about general type things, and you spend a little time with them, and you think you advanced your relationship with this person this week. If you ignored Joe, and Joe's doing a great job, and he's excellent, but you never talked to him all week, well, that's not a check mark. And then next week, you need to make sure you go talk to Joe.
Well, and I get some pushback on some people with this for a couple reasons. Number one is, well, Peg, I'll be talking to everybody. I don't have time. I got to get the job done. Well, I'm just here to tell you, manager, leader, that is your job.
And they lower their voice like that.
They do that, Peg.
That's how they convince Peg that they're right.
That's how they do it.
Or they talk louder.
And the other thing is, you need to get out of your comfort zone because you have connected with that person because more than likely they're most like you.
Oh,
so
right.
Like is attracting to like. So you are going to someone who's comfortable and like you. So guess what? As a leader and a manager, that is playing favorites, and you got to stop it. You need to understand. Let's say you're a very outgoing individual who likes to go out and get drinks. That's who you're going to hang out with. But guess what? What about that worker bee?
So that's why I'm a systems person. You have a little sticky note on your desk with everybody's name on it. At the end of the week, you can just say, hey, it doesn't matter whether I like them, love them, whatever. They're my employees. If I've spent time with all of them, great. I get a check mark.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so do this purposely because we do get that as favors. And then the other thing, Pete, we had mentioned this earlier, is how often are you surveying your team? And I would recommend for a culture report, doing one initially in 2018. If you need us to help you with that, we do this,
right?
Where we do a survey and then we do a diagnostic of what we see, and then we create a plan on how to change the culture or upgrade or keep the great culture, and then we'll do it in another 6 months. And then in another, and the goal is that we stay on top of our culture, and even we could do weekly, we have a system where we do weekly engagement questions so that we can keep our pulse on it, because you know what? We want to keep the good people we have, and you don't want silence to be the killer. So, I mean, silence on us not asking for feedback.
Right.
So the thing is, communication, because this is our lesson learned, right, for 2017, is how often are you doing these surveys? Have you ever? And then what actions are you taking because of it?
Because when you think about the flip side of, and our next topic is about finding people before we wrap up, the flip side of finding people, well, if we got really good at retaining people because our communication was excellent, we wouldn't have to find as many people.
Exactly. It's worth it. Doing this matters. And then we recommend, as far as a review, at least twice a year, once at the 6-month mark.
Minimum.
And really quarterly. And a formal review could be a yearly, but we want you to do a review quarterly.
Yeah, and we're trending towards more frequent reviews that are shorter.
Right.
Rather than a 2-hour-long annual review that only happens once a year.
Exactly.
Let's do more frequently and shorter.
Well, and I guess that goes into our last lesson, and it's finding people, to your point, Pete, is when you do everything we just told you before, you're going to keep your good people. And then you don't have to find as many. But one tip that we have, so we were having a company that was growing tremendously, and we knew we had to not only have a better hiring process, which we created, we also had to have a better, more proactive way of finding good people. So here was one strategy that we're going to recommend, is that you're always hiring. In other words,
you're always looking.
You're always looking.
And so, your key people are always looking.
And you tell people.
Yes.
So you say, hey, we're always hiring. Even if you don't have a position open, you say we're always hiring.
That's right.
So you're constantly interviewing.
Because we do have a couple of companies that have talked to individuals and kept the communication links open and hired them 1 or 2 years later. That's okay, too.
Exactly, because have you ever interviewed a bunch of people and you're like, boy, I had a few people, but this one rose above. Keep those other 2. Keep in touch with them. Have drinks. Take them out to lunch. Right. We want you to have a file folder of potential hires for you for each position, so that when it's time to bring on someone, it's a matter of another conversation.
A few phone calls. Yeah.
It's not starting from scratch.
Right. That's good.
And it takes time. And so what we did in this one company in 2017, we knew our growth. So what we did is do you remember, Pete, we had an org chart now, we had an org chart for 2018, an org chart for 2019, and the revenue that will be associated and the new hires we're going to have. So with that plan, we charged the managers the task of, your job is to start interviewing now for 2018 and start getting your file folder for all those positions, which they did. And we have hired wonderful people, and it hasn't been painful because we're doing it proactively.
But it's easier to grow. You're ahead of it instead of letting it drag you.
Well, and these people, and some of them we do get through advertising, but a lot of them we get through talking at networking events.
Yeah,
networking events. Employees, are you offering the employees an incentive for finding great people? Because you know what? Right now, you started this radio show with talking about the growth we're seeing, not only now, but in 2018.
Oh, yeah, it's a good problem.
So your job in 2018 is, how are you going to make sure that you have the right people in place and you do it in a proactive way?
Good.
That's your homework. We've given you some
Good.
strategies.
So let's recap some of the things that you think people could take from this show to do over the next couple weeks based on what we talked about.
So
what should they do?
One is to do your belief system, to write down
some of the beliefs,
Absolutely.
Positive or negative.
And the other thing is to analyze your meeting structure and take an inventory of it to see what adjustments need to be made.
What meetings you're having, how long they are, who's in them, purpose. Purpose.
The communication, we talked about doing a list of your employees, making sure that you're not playing favorites and that you're reaching out to everyone within a systematic way and measured
Especially
way.
if you're the business owner. Are you really, and you could do it if you have, maybe if you have 200 employees, it might be a challenge, but how is your relationship with each of your employees? And if it's low, if you're ranking it low, what could you do proactively to make it better?
And then the last one is always be looking for people. That's it.
Great.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.